If you're the owner of 75,000 children but don't like the idea of ferrying them around in something that resembles a van with seats, then there's a new option in the market that won't break the bank. It's called the Hyundai Palisade, and while Australians are finding it difficult to get passionate about a people mover, this is a plus-size SUV.
And this is the all-new 4th generation Kia Carnival that not only offers more features and space than before, but is a genuine alternative to an SUV for people looking for a family car with lots of space and plenty of seats.
They both have 8 seats, both have V6 petrol engines driving just the front wheels, and they both cost about the same cash.
And what better way to compare the two than to take them for a drive? What's great about this car is Kia have just thought, okay, it could be practical, but hey, let's make it nice, you know? And look, this is the top spec one. It's got the leather seats and all that, but the powertrains are the same, the ride is the same, and even the cloth seats in the cheaper models are still really comfortable.
Totally, and you've hit the nail on the head. What Kia's done with this is they've identified that there is a market for people who want to ferry around thousands of people.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to be daggy and it doesn't have to feel like a van. It's really quiet as well. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of roads you're on. We're not doing, you know, highway speeds at the moment, but when we have spent time in this at sort of 60, 80, 100, it is eerily quiet, very, very smooth.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of this engine. It's not race tuned, but it's very smooth. It's got power and torque where you need it. It's a really good match for a car like this. It's
a big improvement on the older model, which had a similar size engine, but this has been definitely refined. I would still go the diesel version.
I totally agree with you. I'd absolutely go the diesel in this as well, even though this is a very nice engine.
That sounds all right.
It sounds great, and like, in fairness, for a car that weighs 7,000 tonnes, it's actually got enough go as well.
It went all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't scared to do that, you know, with that car bearing down.
You do, yeah, that's right. No, but what that highlighted just then was the problem with traction. You just did a massive one-wheel burnout, effectively pulling out of there, and traction control's on.
Yeah, well, let's try that in the Palisade and see what happens.
I'm glad you said that, because yes, it is horrendous. But yeah, there you go. It would benefit from a lot extra traction from four-wheel drive, especially as you've got the 420 Newton meters of torque from the diesel.
Going back to the looks, the big arbiter on this is my daughter, and I think I was telling you, when she was about 9, she had a pathological hatred for the second generation Kia Carnival. I know, you know that. Yeah, when I picked this up, I took a side view pic of this, and I messaged it to her, and she gets back to me and goes, "Oh my God, wow! Did the guy at Range Rover get a job at Kia?" And I thought,
wow.
"Oh, hello." And I reckon if you jack this up a bit, it would almost start looking like an SUV, and I reckon that would have been in Kia's thoughts.
I get it. There's the angles, there's the proportions. It's kind of, you know, imposing. As you say, choice of materials. Even the colour of this actually is a bit Range Rover-esque.
Yeah, steel blue. Dan, here we are in an 8-seater Carnival in the front seats. It's probably time we talked about the back seats.
No. I hate it when you do that. Actually, it's worst places to land. It's very comfortable back here. Tons of space, as much space as the front row. I've got luxury touches like this fold down armrest, sun blind, cool little USB charging points on the side of your seat. It's actually a really good place to be. Oh, and look at this in the middle. The center seat folds to make a sort of in-flight luxury table with more cup holders. It's not a bad place to be at all.
That's really cool. It's one of those cars where it's better to be a passenger than the driver, I reckon.
Yes, but the question we want to know really is, what's it like in the third row?
Well, you going to get back there?
No, I'm not.
Oh, no. Oh, jeez. Well, actually, this is actually quite roomy. Yeah, good leg room. I mean, I'm in the middle seat, and usually that compromises, and you know, Dan's going back and forth because the middle seats do go back and forth, but even the way they were set, there is no problem with knee room. I mean, the front seats are pretty much an average sized person like me, or height anyway, and then you got Dan, and so it is good. Like, you know, even with taller people, I think it's probably as roomy a third row leg room wise as any I've seen. Getting the third row in this car won't be because you've drawn the short straw.
Looks good back here, but can I come back up front, Dave?
Yeah, okay. What about me? It's not possible, really. Not right now.
The Carnival makes a strong case for space maximising people movers, but can the Palisade cast a shadow on its territory? The Palisade is another option if you have 8 people you're trying to ferry around, including yourself. But of course, the Hyundai does something very different. This one pertains to be an SUV. But is it? That's one of the questions we're asking. And also, these two cars, the Carnival and the Palisade, are exactly the same price, or thereabouts. So, why would you have this over the Carnival? Well, let me point out one thing why you wouldn't. Oh, my hands are really cold. There's no heated steering wheel. Oh, I'm really hot today. No cooled seats. No heated seats either. A lot of blanks down here showing there should be things and options in here, but we don't get them because this is the entry level. It's not the Highlander, nor is it the diesel.
You know, I think people buying SUVs because they're successful because of a certain image. You know, a lot of people say, oh, I like the ride height, but it's not that. It's a lot more about it.
It's
and
a
this
trend and it's a
exudes
fashion.
what people love about SUVs.
It definitely does. It's got a real presence on the road, definitely. People will buy it for that. If you're the type of person that likes a more sort of butch and imposing SUV on the road, this is going to tick that box all day long, especially those really dramatic light accents at the front. You know, this turns as many heads as the Carnival, weirdly, but in a totally different way. Allow me to demonstrate one of the key problems I see with the Palisade. Let's give it a moderate to near full acceleration from a standing start. You see my problem? If you try and get off the mark in this thing quickly, you're just going to go nowhere at all. I think you need that four-wheel drive, regardless of what kind of motoring you're going to do, to just make sense of all that torque.
You exaggerated a bit, but believe me, having driven cars like this, it happens when you least expect it.
While we're on the road, let's stick to the things that you can really evaluate from the front row a bit better. I think the Palisade is the one that has something more to be enjoyed from a driving experience.
It's a big SUV, but the steering, it's light, it's surprisingly nimble for its size. It's not like
Definitely.
a Nissan Patrol or a Prado or something like that. You don't think it's as big as it is.
If you want a car that's for everyone on board, the Carnival is the one to go for. But if you're thinking more of the driver,
Yes,
in an 8-seater, the Palisade's got it.
I think so. Well, again, we've been talking about the drive experience of the Palisade, but it is about those 6 seats behind us, Dan.
Yeah, so you know what to do.
It's me, isn't it? Oh, hey, this is actually pretty roomy, Dan, surprisingly so. You're not exactly short in the leg department, but I've got tons of knee room here, and I can pretty much straighten my legs with my feet coming under the seat, so comfort-wise, it's great. Amenities, couple cup holders on each armrest. You've got air vents, reading lights.
You've got your own climate control panel here.
Yes, a digital one, just like the Kia had, but that was on the ceiling. There's a 12-volt socket, USB sockets on the side of each of the front seats, map pockets. The only thing this really lacks that the Kia has is the sunshade, and also the center console comes down, but it's more of an armrest than a sort of central table, but it has a couple cup holders. But there's no sort of gap to the third row, which probably have a bit of a difference for comfort for third row passengers because they feel sort of fenced off. But we'll look at that in a minute, Dan, because that's probably your turn to get back there.
Actually, Dave, I'm quite well looked after back here. There's not quite as much that feeling of roominess as the Carnival, but there's some good gadgets, USB charging points. These seats are tilt adjustable for a bit more extra comfort. It doesn't feel quite as wide. I've got wheel arches back here in the way, which contain drink holders, which are square. Not sure quite what they're supposed to be holding. But the thing I can notice from back here is how much more headroom there is in the whole car. Maybe that's because we don't get sunroofs in here, or maybe just we're in an SUV and it's taller, but generally a pretty good place to be. And it accommodates my legs, which is very unusual. You're easily my favourite passenger, Dan. Yeah, I think so. One of the key things with the Palisade is space, but not space just for people, but for things as well. So Dave and I are now going to find out how easy it is to fit stuff into the Palisade and how much.
Notice the manual tailgate as opposed to the Carnival, which has an electric one, but it's quick, it goes up and it works and it stays up, and that's all you want. Boot space is about the size of a hatchback with the third row up. I put it down.
How easy that is,
massive.
that's great. Right, what are we going first? Suitcases, I reckon. The scenario is obviously you have 8 people to accommodate, but they're not always going to be in the car. And when they're not, you're going to want to carry stuff.
So this is about 700 litres of space.
That's respectable.
Yep, and it might be difficult for people to work out what that is.
Your loading skills are seriously... You've never played Tetris, Dave? What the hell?
What is wrong with that?
See, that's not going to close now, is it? And that's not going to go up to the roof height. Do you reckon we can do it better? I reckon we can do it better.
No.
No?
Just get one there and make sure none of the children get their head cut off.
I don't know. I think that's it. No, you're just going to... Okay, right. Yep.
Okay. And that's what 700 litres of baggage looks like.
2 boxes left.
And now for the Kia Carnival, which does have a powered tailgate. And plenty of space. I mean, look at this bath. You can fit a small fridge without even putting it for third row down. I mean, the size behind the third row is massive. You can
That's massive. Even without stowing those, you've still got a huge boot, haven't you?
There's nothing bigger than that behind the third row. And we've already got a van here.
Oh, that is huge.
It is massive.
Look at that, they've swallowed them whole. Hey, careful, that's quality luggage, Dave. This is just absolutely like destroying. No, it's just
Tetris. Just chuck it, Dad. Get in there yourself, son.
That is outrageous.
That is ridiculous. And that is seating 5 people.
Totally. You can take so much more in there, and then we just have to wait the usual 24 hours for the boot to close. Victory to the Carnival. One of the reasons people say they love SUVs is they offer an elevated driving position and a better view of the surroundings and what's going on. So we're going to find out. Dave's sitting in the Carnival, and I'm going to measure the distance from the floor to his eye height, which here, David, look forward, is about 1400 millimeters. And now in the Palisade, his eye is about 1410. The advantage of an SUV over the Carnival is about 10 millimeters of height above the road.
But I see a lot more bonnet in the Palisade.
So what you're actually saying is the view of surroundings technically is probably a little bit better in the Kia.
Better frontal vision, yep.
Deciding which is the best 8-seater has been so much more difficult than I was expecting.
Yeah, I think if we're going on purely the best 8-seater, it's probably not that difficult, but it's probably more difficult to work out which is the better car.
We've got 5 categories to consider, so let's kick it off. Value.
The Carnival, that comes with a lot more equipment, including, luxuries like heated, cooled seats. It has 360-degree reversing camera. The power tailgate, love it or hate it, it's still an extra cost option. It just has that luxury feel to it.
There's certainly a lot more in it. Yeah. Space, one of the other considerations. Obviously the Kia scores incredibly highly there. It's the reason we chose to do our chat in this one. It's a little bit more comfortable, there's a bit more space. I think that one's got to win there as well. Fun, that really difficult one to put your finger on. I think for me, it's probably the Palisade that wins in that category. From a driver's perspective, it certainly is the more involving, the one that feels more fun in that regard. And you could argue there's a fun to sort of sitting in this car and the luxury to it, but I would say the Palisade just nudges ahead on that one.
I agree, as a driver, the Palisade is more fun to drive. Look, if I was a 11-year-old kid, I would love this car. You could have everything in here and, you have a lot of fun. But then they'd be loving the Palisade as well. It's nice and tall and, it has that go anywhere image. So I think it wins in fun.
Practicality, that's another really important one. Someone who's considering an 8-seater is definitely going to be thinking about that big P word. With the box loading, the Carnival absolutely excelled there. It's got those really clever folding rear seats that reveal a massive amount of space underneath, where most other cars is just a spare wheel and a fuel tank or an exhaust system. For me, that has some great practical features, but the Palisade also scores nicely there as well.
The Palisade probably has a bit more of emission capability. You could probably take it to a few more rougher roads, a bit, just extra ride height than the Carnival. So a sort of overall practicality to take it away places, Palisade could win there.
And the final category?
Yeah, look, equipment. I think that comes down to value as well. I think in the end, the Carnival just has a bit more. It's a sort of creature comforts, I think, which really makes it impressive than the Palisade. And look, by all means, the Palisade is the entry-level version into it, but it's a mid-spec version in any other SUV, so it's really well equipped.
The Palisade is an SUV, and there's probably some people will put a value on that, and you could argue that that extra ground clearance is a little bit more in the way of capability. It could just edge ahead with a few more points there. But speaking of points, that's what it comes down to. It's time to put the scores on the doors, Dave. With a more rewarding road manner and perhaps a little more all-terrain promise, the Hyundai is easily the most exciting of the two. But it has nowhere near as much equipment as the Carnival. A little more ground clearance and a shorter wheelbase allows the Hyundai to go a little further from the sealed road. But the Kia has unique sliding doors, configurable seats and better fuel economy that you're more likely to appreciate day to day. The Palisade is big inside and out, but with a simply vast cabin and more clever use of that space, the Carnival is the clear champion. It might be the cheapest version, but the Palisade has a decent level of equipment that would typically position it in the middle of many other lineups. And while the Carnival requires a little more investment, it still gets you a lot more for your cash. If you need a car that offers ample space for up to 8 occupants and simply can't bear the idea of saddling up a people mover or repurposed van, then the Palisade offers a huge amount of space wrapped up in an SUV body for an unbeatable price. But the Kia Carnival proves that moving people doesn't have to be daggy or too utilitarian, while offering another level of luxury at a sharp price.